Life in Los Santos isn't for the faint at heart. Between the gang violence, the rampant crime, and the barely there support for everyday citizens, it's clear that District 10 isn't just ignoring civilians, it's actively working against them. This is a multi-episode series to try to uncover what's going on in Los Santos and how civilians can reclaim the city. Now, let's talk numbers. Welfare checks are a meager $17, a sum so small it's laughable. That's what the city deems sufficient to sustain us for an entire day. Even taking a job from the job center nets us $50. If you're lucky, that's just enough to cover a single meal or maybe a tank of gas. But for big ticket items like a car, forget about it. Even the cheapest vehicle starts at $6,000, a fortune for most civilians scraping by. Need a snack? A bag of chips costs $5. That's nearly a third of your welfare check gone in one single bite. But the real insult is trying to legally defend yourself in this crime-ridden city. A gun license, a document supposedly meant to protect law-abiding citizens, requires a $10,000 psych evaluation fee. And where does that money go? Not back to the community, that's for sure. Infrastructure is crumbling, housing is unaffordable, and civilians are left to fend for themselves. Let's not forget the hidden requirements for obtaining a gun license. After you scrape together $10,000 over months of honest work, because selling drugs and robbing people is easier money, as many civilians have pointed out, you'll find out you'll also need a house, the cheapest of which costs $100,000. Oh, and they don't tell you this up front, of course. The city happily takes your $10,000 before slamming the door in your face. So where does this leave us? Most housing is already owned by gang members or business tycoons, leaving everyday civilians either homeless or living in their cars, if they're lucky to own one. Without housing, you can't get a gun license. Without a gun license, you can't legally defend yourself. Without money, you can't get ahead. It's a vicious cycle. The people I've interviewed all say the same thing. The economy pushes civilians towards crime. They can't afford to live honestly in a system designed to keep them poor and powerless. Which raises the question, is the city working with the gangs, or are they simply in bed with the wealthy elites? Either way, their policies are undeniably anti-civilian. The numbers don't lie, and neither do the stories of struggling citizens forced to choose between starvation and a criminal life. Los Santos District 10, the question is simple. Who are you really working for? Because it's certainly not the hard-working civilians trying to make an honest living in this city that's stacked up against them. It's time for a change, and it's time for the voices of Los Santos citizens to be heard. Stay tuned for more on this issue, and see you next episode.